We're closing up to the end of the Heroes crossover. Obviously, there is a hint that there could be more beyond this whole story, but we don't know that for a fact. So at the time of now, we'll just assume what we have is what we're gonna have. This is chapter 8 out of the 11 chapters that we're gonna be receiving. This chapter, called the Heroines, where we get nice little glimpse at the female main characters, but as it were, it's still a crossover. The focus for the most part is interactions between the other characters. First, we got a nice cover with Zeref, Ziggy, and Lucia. Lucia the Demon Child, Zeref the Demon Creator, and Ziggy the Demon King. I've seen a lot of people questioning them grouped. Lucia, I know Lucia, he was a villain. He was kind of had this weird ideology of timelines. Zeref was pretty much forced to become a bad guy. He didn't want to, and he was trying to fix things. He was trying to help everybody, in a way that Natsu didn't see as right. With Ziggy, though, it's unknown. We don't really know anything about his backstory. We know he was called the Demon King, and he was a space outlaw. He could have easily been some form of a low-key villain. Villain, I don't want to say evil, but seen as a bad guy in some aspects. He had to earn that title somehow. You don't earn the title of Demon King by being a nice guy. I kind of imagine he'll be just once we actually get to a backstory of Ziggy in the Eden Zero canon, that he'll be nice, similar to Shiki, but when it comes to somebody, having issues with his friends, causing them danger, he'll have a villain persona about him. Because that's one of the things that Shiki has had present in Eden Zero. He's, this nice, kind of awkward dude, but you mess with his friends. It's not like Haru, who got serious, he's gonna fight you. Natsu will just kind of, go ballistic. He's a big fiery rage fella. Whereas Shiki just gives off villain vibes at that point. Not as in general, but only in the situations. But anyway, this chapter, Urza's discussing the plan. They're going to have Natsu, Haru, and Shiki go after Genesis, while the rest of them go try and find where the actual core of this is, the actual source of the power of Oasis is, and destroy it, cutting off the power from Genesis, and hopefully saving the world. Because now you have, all these creatures that he's created from his imagination just wreaking havoc all across the planet. It's crazy, how much his spire, his big weird contorted spire thing that he's constructed got. Because in the first chapter we saw it, it was, I don't know, 100 meters tall, and here it's bigger than a mountain. It takes up a pretty considerable size of the island, so fairly big thing. But they're all why are we sending those guys after him? It's because Haru wants to go do the right thing. Shiki seems to kind of be tagging along, but Natsu, more than I think the others, wants to get payback. I think they all want to beat him. But when you see the interactions when they actually meet back up, Haru's more all right, time round 2, I got this. Shiki's just okay, let's do the objective. Natsu's just pissed off. He's you didn't beat me last time, whatever. It wasn't a real win. He's always been kind of a little bit of a sore loser, but he's ready for this to actually go down. I mean, it's different if they're playing a game versus this villain who's doing a lot of actual bad stuff, to where now it's until the actual end instead of the more silly end. And now the characters are, they're all teamed up, they're on their groups. One of the things I really liked about this chapter is when the characters are noting similarities between, all the group people, because you see Natsu, Haru, Shiki obviously go in a group. You have Ellie, Lucy, and Rebecca. You got Urza, Homura, and Julia. You got Gray, Musica, and Wise. You have them all grouped, but when they're talking about how Natsu, Haru, and Shiki have similarities to each other, at the same time, when you see the characters just meet up with Genesis, they all have a different tone to the way that they're kind of handling it. They're all different in that, and I like that aspect that you can have characters with a, you can have them have things in common, but it doesn't mean they're the same character. It doesn't mean they're the same guy. And it's always one of those things I think a lot of people who've actually read more than 10 chapters of Ichihiro Mishima series can say it's yeah, they've got similarities, but their similarities are mostly general shonen main character things. They care about their friends. They're fairly good guys. I mean, Haru's pretty good, but Haru's actually supposed to be a classical hero. He's, his story is the hero's journey. But, you know, when they get up there, like I said, Haru's like, all right, cool, you're not going to beat us this time. Shiki just seems to be complimenting Natsu's smell, but he seems pretty ready to fight again. And Natsu's just mad because he's like, you know, that didn't count as a win at the previous point. But now they're ready to actually to go at him. He's, you know, talking about his whole power of creativity, and they're discussing their bonds. Like Haru's like, you know, we have something more powerful than your ability of creation. You know, the power of our bonds of our team. And Genesis states the obvious. He's like, you guys just met today. But Natsu says, like, you know, they pretty much feel like old friends, and Shiki says there's something that connects between them. And from the end of the chapter, it seems like there's going to actually be something revealed that supports that statement. It's not just like, oh yeah, you know, they just seem to get along. There seems to be actually going to be something there. But now the characters are going in round 2 against Genesis, but now they're serious this time. I mean, really, when they went up against him the first time, they were fighting him, but it just seemed like a bad guy that just showed up versus, hey, this guy's wreaking havoc on the planet. We need to stop him, or, you know, we're dead. So, you know, he's you know, doing his own stuff while the characters are countering. You know, he just does like a little explosion spell. Here comes Haru with Rune Save, cuts it. You know, his magic cutting and sealing sword. But it's definitely one of his best swords. And that's one of my things though with Wraith Master that always kind of bothered me. Haru, for the most part, really used like 4 of his 10 swords for the most part. And then, you know, then he got Revolt, and he's like, well, screw the other ones. I just need Revolt. The other ones were like momentary transformations, but, you know, all Revolt all the time. I am wondering if he's going to end up using Revolt in this whole, this crossover. I think it'd be fine. I mean, he's got these upgraded swords. I like to see an upgraded Revolt, or just Revolt in general, personally. But he's throwing that down, you know, adding some support. Natsu's doing the direct head-on attack, you know, his thing. Because when you have this, I mean, look at the way that they're at. Haru is dispelling Genesis's spells. He's doing, you know, the utility thing. Natsu's just going straight in. He's an assault type. He's durable. He hits hard. He's a head-on character. And Shiki is shooting gravity bullets at him. He's more of a flexible character. He's mobile. He's got range with stuff like his gravity bullet, gravity wave, and whatnot. And then Haru comes in. You know, he's got his dual explosion. You know, he's coming in that whole fight, and that just starting to bother Genesis. Genesis just seems a little annoyed. Ends up using the spell Third's Asterism. You know, he just starts launching attacks at him, and then, you know, it uses the power of Oasis to increase his power more. It's so neat that he could give himself powers, and just like anytime he wants to buff himself, he can. I'm guessing this isn't going to be what his final form is. We still have 3 chapters, and my guess is it will be still 2 chapters of fight, because I didn't think we'd even get to like the fight with Genesis until chapter 9, but we're at chapter 8, and it would be kind of weird to be like, oh, he's done in chapter 9, and then chapter 10 and 11 are wrap up. My guess is chapter 11 will be, you know, a fun chapter, and then chapter 10 is where they actually beat him. But he ends up, you know, powering himself up, dropping Sema. I saw people talking about this too, because this was interesting. Because, well, one of the things that was consistent is you see like how big the meteor is in comparison to that big ass mountain-sized spire. Is Sema was the one Jalal used, which is large, you know, a large meteor, whereas the one that Irene used looked smaller, but it was massively faster. Deuce Sema was absurdly faster than Jalal's Sema, but Shiki actually counters something like a meteor, because Shiki, you know, power of gravity, he can lower the gravity around something, you know, he can mess with its weight. So what is a meteor? A meteor is lots of mass, lots of weight in something, and the speed that it's traveling to where it's kinetic energy, which we saw in the fight with Kurenai and her Crimson Dragoon robot mech. He has the ability to, you know, counter that. That's one of the things that he's, you know, showing present with his moveset, you know, the power of gravity. You know, he goes up, you know, uses his gravity center, messes with its gravity, and then jumps off it with his gravity comet going down into Genesis. One thing I want to make clear, because I've seen people talking about this, and I don't understand why, is people are like, for some reason, talking about power levels, like, oh, well, if we go look at the crossover before, you know, Mishima was careful about what swords that Haru used against Natsu, because, you know, it was, you know, whatever version. I mean, you could say that, but at the same time, Natsu didn't even use Lightning Flame Dragon then, and Haru only had, what, up to Mel Force. When you have a crossover, they're gonna be equal. I mean, even in this one, you can't say like, oh, Shiki's equal to end of series Haru and current Natsu. No, he's not. Because one, Haru hasn't used Revolt, and you can't even compare it to the actual end of series Haru because this is a what if world. Well, I can't say what if world. It's like an else world. It's its own universe. This is where all the characters exist at the same time. Because where Shiki comes from a different planet, Natsu and Haru are on this planet. So they've been here the whole time. This is a new planet than the one that, you know, Rave Master centered on, and the one that Fairy Tail centered on. But when you, even if you look at some of the actual stuff, one, Haru broke Aizen Meteor at the end of Rave Master when he, or during his time after getting Revolt, he let the sword rest. Two, Revolt becomes, even if you wanted to say he got a new one, Revolt was like it was his base form. He even got a special sheath for it. Three, I mean, he's even got all these upgraded forms. Four, I mean, even at the end of Rave Master, him and Ellie got married, so it's, I don't know why they wouldn't be more coupley in this. But, and then look at Natsu. Natsu hasn't even used a form. He hasn't used Lightning Flame Dragon, he's Dragon Force, he hasn't used Fire Dragon King mode, none of it. The thing is, they're gonna all be equals. It's a crossover. The characters are all gonna be equals. Look at something like, I think the best example, because it was a very weird crossover, was the Dragon Ball One Piece Toriko crossover. That was 3 different series by 3 different people. But the main characters, I mean, really the characters in general, all the characters that were at their equal, were equal to each other. Like their equivalent, rather. Natsu, or not Natsu, Goku, Luffy, and Toriko, all, you know, they all could actually compete with each other. Not like, I mean, even if you took Dragon Ball, which is, you know, ahead of One Piece by a lot, so was Toriko. And you had, like, the whole crossover, you had Zoro, Zebra, and Vegeta all just, like, matching each other's attacks and just, like, trying to flex on each other. I mean, in reality, it would be Zebra yells, or Vegeta shoots a random ki blast, Zoro dies. Vegeta would end up on top, but it would be really quick for Zoro to die, literally by these characters yelling at each other. One stray ki blast would kill him. Zebra can literally kill him by yelling. But, yeah, so just bring, if you see anybody trying to argue power levels with this crossover, don't bother. It's crossover. All the characters are going to be equal to their equivalent from other series. Urza is going to be equal to Homura and Julia. You're going to have Ellie, Lucy, and Rebecca all equal to each other. Musica, Gray, and Wise are all going to be equal to each other. It's just how it's going to be. Because the whole point of the crossover is not consistency with the prime material and the source material. You know, they're their primary universe, whichever the ones where the characters are initially from. This is a, you know, completely different universe. They're going to be set to this one. So just bring that up because it was silly. But Shiki comes down, uses Gravity Comet. Haru's smart, he uses Gravity Core. They combine the gravity attacks in order to hold Genesis in place, while Natsu is charging up, getting ready to use his, you know, his Phoenix Sword, you know, one of his secret arts. It's one of his top attacks. Now again, he's not in Dragon Force, you know, they're not full out yet. The characters aren't going all out yet. That's something to note. I really want to see full body Ether Gear Shiki, Revolt Haru, Natsu in Dragon Force, or Fire Dragon King mode. Either is fine with me. But all out for the characters, because I think it'll be a really fun one. Plus, I don't think Genesis is going to lose here. I think he's going to get maybe annoyed and bruised up, but I fully expect him to, you know, have that kind of like almost break point where he's like, you know, screw you guys, I hate you. I'm gonna go all out to defeat you, and like uses his imagination to turn himself into some big monstrosity that they're gonna have to defeat, which would be really cool. Combine it in like a space monster for Eden Zero, a magical creature for Fairy Tail, and then more of just like a weird creature of sorts that you can't really get like a positive, like a for sure origin for Rave Master, as Rave Master was. But after that point, the characters are all just fighting all these monsters. They're, you know, they're not sure if they're even letting up. It just seems like they just keep coming. And the female leads, you know, Lucy, Ellie, and Rebecca, you know, end up going ahead and finding this big kind of like glowing light cavern, this big cave, which just full of crystals and like, I'd imagine just crystallized ether nano like we saw at the beginning of 100 Years Quest, just floating in the air. And inside there is, you know, who was Mashima, you know, this character who was, you know, he's pretty much Hiramashima old. And he's saying, you know, after he got stabbed, he regained his memories, and he is the god that's how to pronounce, Mashimir, the god of creation. He's the one who made Oasis. Oh yeah, that was one of the other things. If you wanted to like bring in like EOS Haru, at the end of Rave Master, all of the Darkbringer were destroyed, so it'd make no sense for Haru to be there. Obviously, again, crossover, you don't need to bring that up. But he's going to reveal the secret to the island. And the thing about the island, I think there's going to be some like weird way that's like, you know, a bridge. It's a connection point between other universes or something. Like in every universe across Hiromishima's whole multiverse, this island is going to exist on a planet somewhere. And characters are drawn to it. I think that'd be really cool, because then you could keep having characters reoccurring. Also, what would be really neat is, like, you see, like, at the very last panel is, you know, you have just the layout, the cool M, obviously from Mishima, and, like, the Genesis's big spire, all spiky and whatnot, is if, like, each time he had a crossover and brought the characters in, something else happened to the island, you know, it just kept kind of morphing into something else. I think that'd be really cool. Or maybe, like, a bridge between the two mountains, make it, like, kind of like an H, and then you have HM, Hiroshima. That'd be neat. But, as it were, the next chapter is called Illusion. Again, I'm guessing next chapter, Genesis will go into full, like, monster mode, and then chapter 10, they'll beat him. Chapter 11 will probably be, like, a little bit bigger than the other ones, and be, like, a fun wrap-up chapter. Maybe set up something for the future, because remember, in that whole part where they kind of mention names, and they're astonished why Shiki's name wasn't Fuyu or Aki, you know, winter and fall, and it was all 4 seasons, then Happy's fourth wall broke, and it's like, you know, they exist, but that's a different story. So maybe we'll see them in a continuation of Heroes at some point. Other than that, I had a lot of fun with this one. I like that the characters are now, you know, they're going against Genesis with actual, like, reason behind it. They're not dilly down, they're not being silly. Now they're getting into the fight. And I'm hoping to see All Out by this, because again, even if you bring in Aki, you bring in Monster Soul, he had 2 volumes. He turned into a badass horned werewolf. You bring in, I mean, it'd be hard to do Fuyu, even he was a one-shot. Kind of a little bit less flexible. But, you know, you bring him in, oh, well, Aki, he can fight with, you know, Natsuharu and Shiki. I don't care. Bring them all in. Bring all the main characters. Just make them all equal. It's a crossover. It doesn't need to be consistent with the source material. It's a what-if universe. Again, not really what-if. Elseworlds. It's its own separate thing that is outside of the continuations of each of them, but within the Hiromishima's multiverse. But other than that, comment below. Tell me your thoughts are about the chapter, and tell me your thoughts about the events. I think it's cool. I'm guessing that Masahiro is like, you know, he erased his own memory for, you know, a certain reason, and that reason is, you know, part of the secret of the island. But anyway, thanks, I'd really appreciate if you thumbs up the video, press the like button, subscribe button, and check out my other videos. But that, I appreciate everyone who's already subscribed, and I thank you all for listening. Bye.